everyone, it's Adrian Leah. This will be the Cozy Holiday Deck Tag video. The tag is by Frost and Forest. It's been a long time since I did a deck tag. I have a couple of channels, but there are two main channels. The first one that I made was originally a witchy channel, and then it turned more into a reading channel, so then I made this one, and um, there was mainly witchy tarot videos, and then I went to continue my education, and I was focusing on that, and I made a lot of crafting videos when I wasn't doing tarot videos. So I have a little bit of downtime. I'm still doing some things um, in terms of studies, but I feel like the desire to read more and more is um, more evident. I was reading um, during the times when I wasn't making videos, but it wasn't the main focus, and I would eat, breathe, sleep tarot in a way, so it was a little bit of a surprise and transition for me. But I do love it, and I will show the decks that I have. A lot of them are in my storage unit, so I'm at my parents' house right now because sometimes I house it, and then I'm going to be moving next year. So I'll show some of the decks that I have, and I try to prioritize a good amount of them. Some of them I'm thinking I would have liked to bring that certain decks, but it's okay. So the first prompt is First Snow. Show a deck that feels peaceful, restorative, and softly introspective, like the calm hush that falls with the season's first snowfall. Um, that one I was thinking about for a little bit. I feel like, um, well, when I think about the decks that I have, peaceful and softly introspective aren't ones that I talk about as often or read with as often. Not saying that I don't have them, but I did choose the EarthSide Divine Tarot. So this one was sold on Etsy. And then the back says, so the person is channeling this Sireness, and that's her Instagram handle. Aligned to the eternal, captivating light of the soul, of my soul, I move forward in genuine, inspired action for the blessed Earthside road ahead. So it's one of those decks that I feel is special for the collection that I have, because this isn't a deck that I normally go for, and I was picky about it. And I do have like a Lenormand that gives uh like the restorative soft type of energy. So it does have like a petal type of texture to it, and that's one of my favorites. textures in cardstock. So these cards have keywords on them, and they just remind me of like those picture type of websites like Pinterest. Um, there feels like an aesthetic that goes with it, and it kind of gives like its own type of nostalgia, even though there's another prompt that kind of talks about that. But it's a different type because it's not like one that's really ingrained in what I do or like the lifestyle that I have. Um, in general, I feel like I'm pretty peaceful in a way where um, I don't really have a lot of drama going on in my life, but I'm also more of a lone wolf, if you will. But at the same time, the organization that I'm with, I do have to have multiple meetings a week, and then I do presentations for medical related topics. Um, so it's a lot of talking in that way, but I do feel like there are levels of how close I keep people and the types of interactions and what they mean to me. And if a person, again, if a person is in my life, what is like going on there in terms of that, um, if they're an acquaintance or a friend type of thing. And I do tend to, because some people, I know when maybe when they're talking to somebody, they have maybe like a joke that they see how far they could take it with this person, and that could be one of those things that really defines and determines like how far that type of interaction could go or won't go. For me, I especially when I left the my um childhood home, I lived my life for a little, well, over a decade of being on my own. It was chaotic a lot of the times, and I feel like one of the things is like how deep can the conversation go, especially when I might talk about, depends, like it could be brief, it could be not so brief, about something that has happened. And again, I'm not like trying to air out everything necessarily, but um if someone's asking like how are you, it's not just to ask how are you. Like I'll give my answer, and then they'll see. Not saying I want to control their response, but um there might be like response for, oh, I was just asking just to ask, or that is a lot to take in for what you just told me, and I'm hoping we can still be friendly with each other, but just not to the depths of going deeper into our lives. So I think that's like kind of the energy. And I just feel like there's a lot of depth there. So just to say I'm a Libra sun, but most of my chart is in Scorpio. And like my first name means dark, and then my middle name means queen. So I feel like it just kind of goes with this. So this is the first deck. I'm sorry I didn't really talk about it. But at the same time, I feel like it just gives off its own type of, um, like it just kind of feels like a Pinterest board to me. I've never had Pinterest or like other types of accounts like that. Um, I've I have Instagram and I reopened my photo bucket. They're my pictures mainly. So, um, I guess in that way. And then with this deck, it's also a surprise to me because I don't really have many decks that have like real imagery in it, the photography. So it's also an exciting thing for me, and I do really appreciate the deck for what it, like the uniqueness that it brings to the collection, and for that that's one of the main reasons why I kick it out pretty frequently. So the next one is Dark Nights. Share a deck that keeps you company during the long, dark nights of winter. The one you reach for when the world goes still and the shadows stretch a little longer, and you want a bit of mystery, comfort, and magic in the dark. So with that one, it was picked pretty quickly. I have it in this bag, and I think I left the box in my storage unit. So this is the Forhaxa Tarot, and this is the edition that was like the one that debuted, and then eventually it was mass produced. So I'm I'm pretty sure I'm going to double check. So I absolutely love this deck. I saw it and then immediately um, went to pre-order it. I believe that was like the process. It was a long time ago, but I love the size of the cards. I have read with MG's decks in the past, and it was interesting. Well, I read with her Crow Tarot, and there was the cat tarot, but I don't no, it's the Grimalkin tarot. I believe that's what it was called. Again, I'm so sorry if it's not. Let me check. But that was like during a big transition for like relationship wise, and I didn't actually receive that deck. So I just left it at that. But I feel like I really wanted that one. Over the years, I've used another cat tarot, the Mystical Cats Tarot, and that was the main cat deck that I had. I have had other ones too, but that was the one that just like stuck with me. There was also the Pagan Cats Tarot, but um, I wanted like the regular size one, and I ended up getting like the mini one, and I just left it at that. So I just feel like it has the essence of dark fairy in here, and that is a type of comfort to me. So there's like different interpretations in that, and um, which makes it fun too. I haven't actually used this deck too often, but when I did, I enjoyed it because I did get it at a time where I, I, I got it, and then I'm sorry, and then I went to continue my education. So um, it just wasn't something that I reached out for too often. Because during those days, like I would still do tarot, but not nearly as much as I did like um, before going back to college. So I just love the depiction of dark fairy to me because it's not a representation that you see as often as other fairy decks. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm a fairy deck fiend. I don't collect decks like I used to because I passed a lot of them on, and I do have some that I've been reading with for like over a decade, and I'm still reaching for those instead of some of the ones that I would get here and there, like in passing. And it's not to say that those aren't great decks. Um, some environments, like uh, a larger bookstore, you don't really get to hold and see the cards really. You kind of just buy the deck and then you open it up. So it I'm more mindful about how much I'll purchase, and I'll purchase decks in the future, but not to the extent that I did before. So um, and it all makes sense at the end when I show my last deck. And then I have an honorable mention for this video too. So my decks are generally, um, well, I would say a good amount of them are fairy decks. A lot of them tend to be on the darker side, or another interpretation of decks like that. Um, and it just, in its own way, it's soothing for me. So the third prompt is festive treats. Share a deck that gives you the same warm, comforting feeling um, as your favorite holiday pastries or baked goods, sweet and cozy and oh so satisfying. This one I was thinking about for a little bit because I saw this video um, not too long ago, like actually really recently, and I was thinking, what would that be considering um, the type of deck situation that I have? So this will be maybe a little off the beaten path for some, but I chose the Watcher Angel Tarot. And it does give the warm, comforting, and cozy for me. I actually got this as a Christmas gift one year from my dad. This is also one that I got on Etsy. There's a book that comes with it too, but I don't have a book. It has like the little wife book in here. And at some point I'm gonna make a bag for it. You would think that I would have made a bag for it, but I think it'll be time for that pretty soon. Um, I remember when I first got this deck, for some reason this never happened before. I actually got really emotional. It was like a combination of different emotions. Um, and it wasn't even really the me opening the deck and seeing the contents of it. It was just like in general of receiving this deck. So there's an extra card. It's the Seeker. I don't put it in deck. My fascination with this deck happened when, well, I was born in Philly, and there's this show Paranormal State that happened a couple years ago, and I was like, um, Bellinger, I believe, was in the one of the psychics that would be on the show. I'm um and then there's also Williams on the box too. I'm pretty sure it's Bellinger. I'm so sorry if it's not. But she was the psychic that showed up on the show, and I was like, oh, awesome. And I saw this deck, and again, it was one of those like unique type of decks because um I have some angel decks, and it's interesting because I didn't start using them like recently. I've been using them for the past maybe like 2 years, I would say, 2-ish years. Um, and it's mainly with my Ukrainian readings. Um, and with that, I wanted to do readings that would be more receptive and more like it would give a type of like comfort in a way for especially for those who aren't acclimated to tarot readings or like some type of mysticism or metaphysical items. So that's how I got more into reading angel decks, and I do have Ukrainian decks. I um, have other decks in this video. I mean, there's a deck from Ukraine, but um, that was like one of the focuses, and then the angel decks were a big focus. I have used, out of all the angel decks that I have, I would say this is the one that like even before that, because I got this like around a decade ago, and I did use this one. It was again, as I said multiple times, it's the main angel deck that I used because it had that type of rich, a little bit of like darker energy to it. So and the Watcher Angels for the background of this, they committed things that were against God, um, whatever your whatever you believe in, and they were there were consequences to it, and they were in a book that isn't one that is included in the Bible. So And one of the main things was like meeting with humans. So it's a mixture of like divine and human. So I do like the size of these cards, and I'm really happy that this has stuck with me for so long. Because one of the moves I did, um, drive through a hurricane. Well, I drove through a hurricane season, and I lost some of my stuff, and some of them were decks. So, but luckily, majority of the decks uh, were okay. I'm sorry, I'm not really talking about the decks, but there's like stories that go behind these decks. And the cards do like jive with me. Sure, you could read a deck, but there, you know, when a deck has like it flows with you when you're doing your reading. And I feel like that's one of the important things. Interesting, interesting. It has like the swords here, and then it does kind of give a reference to like sometimes when it switches the elements with the swords and the wands, with the argument of the sword slashes through air, but the sword is also forged in fire. So the next prompt is um, holiday lights and candles glow. Show a deck that brings a sense of warmth, sparkle, and gentle illumination. The kind of deck that feels like being wrapped in a soft candlelight or colorful twinkling holiday lights. Now, it says soft, but this one I would say like more colorful twinkling holiday lights, just because it's one that is one of my brightest decks, because I do like color. I have said this in the past, but I tend to go for like warmer, like different types of colors, like the rainbow, like a warmer rainbow. So I have the Terror of the She, and this one has definitely been with me. Again, I've had it for like a decade, and this was, I think it was a special time, especially for purchasing decks for me, because um, I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so I was really trying to focus on decks that, well, I could afford, and then decks that really intrigued me, or I felt like strongly about, because um, again, I didn't have a lot of money. So this is the trimmed version. It has gone through a lot of different stages. At first I did black, but then to like match the writing area, but it was a little, again, it's my brightest deck, and um, I love the deck. It, but the black was like a bit much for me. So I did, I believe there was maybe like a purple, and then, because there's also like purple borders on this, and then I went for the silver. I don't know if silver Sharpie is still popular these days, but I felt like many apartments and households had that Sharpie. So that's stuck with me. And I actually traded this deck with a close friend of mine, and we actually traded again, and I got it back. And luckily for me, she didn't, well, not saying like I didn't want her to connect with the deck, but for some reason I was trying to get the deck back again, and then like it's like the deck never wanted to leave, and then like it went to her. She wanted to try some fairy decks, um, and she thought that this deck scared her because it was more like alien to her. And so I traded something else back. And aside from trading, we do gift each other decks too. So that's what I did like 2 years ago. I gave her a lot of the decks that I wasn't using. So this is another deck that I really connect to, and I love the different interpretations of maybe like general meanings, and then going of the Rider-Waite-Smith for the decks that I have here, and then going from there. Just coming up with a lot of different ways of saying things, and it almost adds different details to your story or your reading. Because I think of my readings as like telling a story. And so this is also one of those decks that I really have a strong trust in. I know with Emily carding, she does have a strong connection to the Fae. So, um, I have had, well, I had the transparent tarot too, and that's in my storage unit. And then there was another deck of hers that I had. But I did move that along. And again, it's not to say that it isn't a good deck. And then a lot of times, like it's a rare occasion where I connect to more than one deck of from the same creator. I usually like have like one deck that I really use. Same with MJ's too, because that situation, like I don't use the Crow Tarot a lot, but I actually do enjoy using it. So I just feel like it's a different shade of palette that I go for, but I do really love this deck. And I think I'm going to make a bag for it too, although it's been in the box. But I got it used on Amazon. Back when it was like, I know the original price wasn't 15, but I think I got it for like around $15. And that's definitely not the price of tarot decks these days. Even for mass produced. Like I see some that are a lot more expensive with than the prices that I've seen in the past. So then the next prompt, friends and family, share a deck that feels like gathering with the people who mean the most to you. The one that evokes laughter around a shared table, heartfelt conversations, inside jokes, and comforting feeling of being together. So this one I thought about too. I was thinking about all of them in general, but this one because I was like, maybe I'll just do my deck. And I'm like, no, I feel like I want to go a different direction. And I'm not saying I don't like the people that are in the deck, of course. I still talk to majority of them, and the ones that I don't really talk to, I don't have any beef with. So I feel like in a way, I still read with the deck. Oh, sorry, deck a ton. I was gonna say that, but like, and then I stopped myself. Um, and so I just felt like changing it up a little bit. So I have it in this deck bag. I love the button that I use. I got it from the Fiber Festival. I think it's a glass button. And just a random thing. If you're trying to buy buttons for like a good price, like I wouldn't go to Walmart for them, or like there's certain stores, and like even craft or not crafting, like maybe quilting stores or like fabric stores. I feel like I went to a place and their button prices were a lot cheaper than Walmart's or like maybe Michael's or something. So this wasn't too expensive either, the button that I used, the Jameson yard for this, maybe. Or did I use the JC Rennie's. So this is the Buckland Romani Tarot. I love this deck. This isn't one that I use often, but it traveled with me because there's just something so special about it. And when I do read with it, I do enjoy it. So there might be like re-emerging things of like the decks that I have used over the years and will continue to use, and be even more since I'm reading more. Um, but it gives me a chance to just almost discover other decks that I haven't really used. So this is a copy from Ukraine, and I do really like this one. It's also the shop from Etsy, and because there's a bootleg version, this is a specific copy where it was printed after the creator passed. But then there's another copy. Um, I think you find it a lot on eBay. And you'll definitely see a difference. I mean, there'll be a little bit of differences here, but I feel like overall it it feels like a deck. And I chose this one because, oh, I didn't even go into it, because as I said, when I turned 18 and I just ran out of the house and I lived my life, this was like what it felt like when I was living my life. I moved a lot in the past decade, have done and experienced a lot of things. This does feel like a resting point right now, but when you're an adult, that doesn't last for long. So I just love this deck, and I tend to go for like older decks usually. So the last prompt, tradition and rituals. Share a deck that carries the nostalgia of seasons past, the one that brings back childhood memories, well-loved family customs, and the small familiar traditions that return year after year to make the season special. I'm sorry, I didn't really talk about the decks in this video, but hopefully the reasoning behind it gives some interest. I have the deck in a thrifted bag from Savers. Still in here after all these years. Again, this is the deck that I got around a decade ago. I have gotten decks, of course, after that and decks before a decade ago, but um, that tends to be like when I really got into buying decks. So I chose this one because of the traditions and rituals, as the title says. Be like I started off with the Morgan. It's, I mean, I'm not saying things have changed, but there's a lot that just is ingrained in that with my journey and who I am, who I will be. There's just a lot of like things that resurface, um, circulate, and then powering through consequences. A lot of just life. You laugh, smile, you're upset. There's just so many different things, and I really feel like by working with Morgan, I have just experienced life so fully. Um, and the meaning behind it is that like she doesn't make it easy. Life doesn't really make it easy either. And I have the Faery Wicca tarot here. So I have the one with like the large book, and it was just by surprise, honestly. And I actually remember me just going to story time and not really talking about the deck. So I originally was trying to get this deck a couple years ago, and there was like eBay bidding, and I'm really not a bidding person because I get like stressed because um I know there's like a good chance. It's not like not, I mean, it could like be about like not winning, but basically like towards the very last, especially the last like 5 seconds, 1 second, um that's when people put all their bids in. Like you'll see that like the bidding is like super quiet. And you like me not really knowing like the whole bidding thing. I was like, oh, cool. I think I'm gonna get this. The very last second, like somebody like you just see that, oh, you lost, and I'm like, what? And then somebody like literally just bidded um before the um before it expired or ended. So I was thinking like, oh, that's unfortunate. So I found a listing on Amazon, and with Amazon, I don't know if they changed it, but I remember I couldn't see a picture of this deck. It was a really general description. Oh, there's extra cards in here. And I wasn't sure if I was gonna get it because sometimes, like when you buy decks, like it might be just the book or an incomplete deck. Like um, it can be unpredictable that way. So I bought it on a whim for a really, really cheap price. And when I got it in the mail, it was like the full on thing. And I was like, oh my god, it's like meant to be. And also, I feel like Llewellyn, they have specific dates. I don't know if they ever changed it of when like certain decks would come out. And in a couple of listings for like the publication for this deck, it says like my birthday. I'm not saying it for every publication, but for like a lot of the publications, it says my birthday. So like I also thought that was meant to be too. Um, and then a couple other instances with Llewellyn, I saw that too. So I'm happy that I picked this up, and I use it mainly for client readings when I do client readings. I do them here and there. So there's a lot of stories that goes into that book. And so the honorable mention, I'm already at 47 minutes. Okay. So the reason why I'm going to show this deck is because I literally bring this deck out in the winter time. And I'm not really a water person per se, but I just, it's my favorite time to bring it out. So I have two different copies of the deck because there's a couple of versions that came out. Um, so it's the Dame Darcy. Oh, I put it in here. And this is the copy that I use. I have an older version of it. So this isn't the one that's the gilded one. There was one that was like before this one. So I'd say this is the second version because some of the cards are different. And then she came out with this, like with newer cards. Um, this came out around like, well, when I was in high school, and that's when I got it. So just out of perspective, I graduated high school 2013. And um, this was also a gift. I had my first copy in high school, and that was given to me by a friend. And then there was like a story with like my first deck, and that's another video. And so I didn't have that deck anymore, and then I repurchased this deck. So it's technically not the first one that I had. And then a couple years later, Dame Darcy, she found a box with the older decks, and so she was selling them, and I picked it up because I was like, ooh, nostalgic. And that's how I have these. So I just love the that the colors are a little more subdued the first one. I do love that too. It's a little more bold. I think it goes with me. So I'm sorry that this video was super long, and hopefully the story times were interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye, and thank you for doing the tag too. It was really fun.